Hi, my name is Sierra Durbin. Recently, I discovered a very unique literary magazine called Versification. I searched for poems with interesting forms that caught my eye and found this one in the October 2021 issue. Today, I will be reading When It Fell by Amy Jean Muller. The writing theme for this week is form and feelings. I selected this poem because the way that the lines are broken up intrigued me, especially when noticing how it related to the title of the piece. This appearance made me want to continue reading to find out why exactly the poem was set up that way. I also chose this because I love how the poet could represent feelings with the form. And now I'll begin reading When It Fell. I tried to build sandcastles with your ashes, in the hopes the foundations would stick, but the windows caved in your cremation as a house fell apart and home formed a heap. I can somewhat connect to this piece because the lines, as a house fell apart and home formed a heap, remind me of my home burning down and basically becoming a heap of ashes. That is not exactly what this writer's intending when she's talking about trying to build a sandcastle with ashes, but this is the memory that it reminded me of in my personal life. Something that I think other poets can learn from in this model is the intentional use of form. The very foundation of the poem is unstable, and this is the emotion I believe the poet is trying to evoke as a response to someone special who died, which is the person that they're clearly addressing to in the poem, your ashes and your cremation. You can see the visual representation of this emotional instability with the way that the shorter lines at the bottom of the poem are trying to hold up the two long middle lines up. It kind of reminded me of the game Jenga, where you try to pull out a block without causing the structure to collapse. The structure of the poem appears unsturdy, and the way that the longer sentences extend out kind of show how the speaker feels uncomfortable in her situation. And the form definitely caught my attention because it made me feel uncomfortable too before I even began reading it, just because the arrangement and breaks of the lines seem a little awkward. Also, I noticed that the poem ends with the one word, heap, to represent how the structure, or lack thereof, ended where it began, just being a pile of ashes. I also wanted to point out just how powerful the emotion is behind such few words, because it made me think of how a person's home life can feel like it's falling apart when a deceased loved one is no longer there. In response to When It Fell, I challenge you to write a poem playing with form in which you focus on the foundation. Use this poem as a model. Is your foundation sturdy enough where it can hold the weight of the lines or perhaps the metaphorical weight of the words? Or does it look like the words are going to topple over the edge? This doesn't have to apply to literal buildings, just whatever that you can come up with that makes sense to your piece. Even though this was a pretty short poem, I enjoyed analyzing the thought behind its form, and I hope you did too. Thank you for listening.